All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating ancient Chinese text called the Wenzi. And I know what you might be thinking. A 2,000-year-old book, what could that possibly have to say about our crazy modern world? Well, it turns out a whole lot. Its central idea is about a type of power that feels, well, more necessary now than ever. It's all about how to achieve amazing things, not by hustling and grinding, but by, getting in sync with a natural flow. And this leads us to a really mind-bending paradox, especially for today. I mean, we live in a world that's just obsessed with the hustle, right? We're all feeling the burnout from constantly pushing and forcing things. So the Onesie throws this totally radical question at us. What if the real secret to getting more done, having more influence, and, actually finding some peace of mind is to do less? Yeah, you heard that right. Let's dig into what that actually means. Okay, so to even begin to get our heads around this idea of effortless power, we have to go right back to the beginning. We need to talk about the source of, well, everything. We need to talk about the Tao. So, what exactly is the Tao? You've probably heard it translated as the way, and that's a good start, but it's so much bigger than that. A great way to think about it is like the universe's fundamental operating system. It's not some kind of god or a person watching over us. No, it's the invisible, natural, totally spontaneous force that guides everything, from how the planets spin in their orbits to how a tiny seed grows into a giant tree. And what I find so cool about this is the sheer humility here. The text, which is credited to the legendary sage Laozi, basically says, look, I don't even pretend to know what this thing is. It's like he's saying, there's this thing. It's formless, it's complete. It was here before heaven and earth. I have no idea what its real name is, so I'm just going to call it the Tao. It's this beautiful admission that we're talking about something so fundamental, it's beyond what our words can even describe. Okay, so we can't exactly see the Tao, right? But we can get a feel for it by looking at its qualities. And it's just full of these amazing paradoxes. Think about it. It's the source of all life, but it doesn't possess a single thing. It completes everything, but it never claims any credit. It's literally the most powerful force in the universe, but its nature is soft, yielding. And that idea right there, that yielding, flowing power, that's the absolute key to figuring out how we can use this in our own lives. Which brings us to something really practical. Leadership. Yeah, the Wenzi takes this huge cosmic idea of the Tao and applies it directly to the art of governing. And for us, you can think of that as leading a team, running a company, or honestly, just managing your own life. All right, this is the big one. The core concept here is called Wu Wei. Now, this gets misunderstood all the time. People hear non-action and think it means being lazy or just doing nothing. But that's not it at all. It's more like effortless action. Imagine a master surfer on a giant wave. Are they lazy? No way. But they're not fighting the wave, are they? They're in perfect sync with its power, using its incredible energy to move. That is Wu Wei. And this chart really breaks down two totally different ways of leading. On the one side, you've got the striving ruler. We all know this person, right? The micromanager. They're all about force, complex rules, imposing their own grand vision on everyone. It's a constant struggle for control. But then, on the other side, you have the sage ruler. This person trusts the process. They embrace simplicity, they don't try to force things, and they create a space where people and projects can just flourish on their own. I absolutely love this quote. It just nails the entire philosophy. I practice non-action, and the people transform themselves. Think about that. The greatest leader doesn't have to be in there meddling all the time. By stepping back, by practicing this Wu Wei, they actually create the space for people to figure things out for themselves, to grow, to fix their own mistakes. It's a total shift from controlling people to empowering them. Okay, I get it. All this effortless action stuff can sound a little abstract. So the Wenzi gives us this perfect, powerful metaphor to make it totally concrete. And that metaphor is water. Seriously, just take a second to think about this quote. Water. It's about the softest, weakest thing imaginable, right? You can stick your hand right in it. But give it enough time, and that same weak water can carve the Grand Canyon out of solid rock. That is the essence of this kind of power. We're always taught that strength is about being hard, being rigid, like a mighty oak tree standing firm against the storm. But the Wenzi has a different take. What happens to that rigid oak in a hurricane? It snaps. Meanwhile, the flexible bamboo just bends with the wind and survives. That's the whole point. Hardness is actually brittle. It breaks. True, lasting strength comes from softness, from being adaptable. It's about not meeting force head-on, but yielding, flowing around the problem, and winning in the end. So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway from all this. Instead of trying to be a rock, be like water. Real power isn't about being rigid and unmovable. It's about being almost infinitely adaptable. All right, so we've talked about the whole universe, we've talked about leadership, but the big question is, what does this mean for us, in our everyday lives? Well, this is maybe the most important part. It's about taking all these ideas and applying them to our own inner world. And the Wenzi lays out a pretty clear path to get there. First, you've got to still the mind. Turn down the volume on all that anxious overthinking and endless planning. Just be. Second, reduce your desires. That constant chase for more money, more status, more likes, it's a recipe for struggle. And third, embrace simplicity. The text has this amazing metaphor for it. Become like uncarved wood. Just think of it as getting back to your true, authentic self before society started carving all its expectations into you. And when you do this, the results are, well, they're huge. When you stop all that mental churning, you suddenly start to see things with real clarity. Your mind and body get healthier. That constant background noise of worry just fades away. And your actions, they become a form of Wu Wei. They become effortless, effective. You finally stop fighting the current and just start flowing with it. And this right here is the ultimate secret. True mastery isn't about bending the world to your will. It's about mastering your own inner world. It's about finding that point of stillness inside yourself. Because when you become that calm, centered core, you'll be amazed at how the world just seems to naturally organize itself around you. Your inner peace literally shapes your outer reality. So, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Our world is so loud, isn't it? It's always shouting at us, demanding more, pushing us to strive harder. But this ancient wisdom from the Wenzis suggests that maybe, just maybe, the real power, the clearest answers, and the deepest sense of calm are found in the exact opposite direction. So, in a world that shouts, what could you learn by just listening to the silence?